hidden ancient sites of China that were never meant to be found. Have you ever felt like you were born in the wrong time? Like you belong to a quieter, older world that no longer exists? In China, there are places older than the pyramids hidden in cliffs, mountains, deserts, and forgotten valleys. These are not the China of skyscrapers and bullet trains. This is a China of sacred silence, ancient power, and 5,000-year-old secrets. Today, we're stepping into places that feel untouched by time. Places where stone remembers, where history still breathes, and where the past never really went away. So let's open the door to one of the oldest civilizations on Earth and explore the most mysterious ancient places in China. 1. Longmen Grottoes. There's something humbling about standing beneath thousands of Buddhas carved into the side of a limestone cliff. The Longmen Grottoes are not just art, they are devotion frozen in stone. More than 100,000 statues were carved into caves and cliffs by monks, artisans, and emperors who believed that beauty could be an offering to heaven. Some statues are small enough to fit in your hand. Others rise high above you, their faces worn by wind, time, and war. Every fold of stone, every curve of a robe, every calm expression was shaped with incredible care. But the Longmen Grottoes also carry loss. Many statues were damaged, heads were stolen, and some carvings were defaced over the centuries. Even so, the site still feels alive. It doesn't ask you to rush, it asks you to be still. This is not just a monument. It is a prayer carved into the mountain. 2. The Great Wall of China. We all know the Great Wall of China, or at least, we think we do. Most people imagine the polished sections packed with tourists and perfect photo spots. But that is only one tiny part of the story. The real wall is rough, weathered, and silent. In many remote sections, nature has begun reclaiming it piece by piece. Standing on an unrestored stretch, with cracked stones beneath your feet and no fences or signs nearby, it feels less like visiting a monument and more like walking through a memory. This wall was built over centuries by emperors, soldiers, and laborers, stretching across mountains, deserts, and valleys. There are legends that human remains were buried inside the wall, and while some details are disputed, archaeology has confirmed that the wall carries real traces of human sacrifice and suffering. It was not built easily. It was built through endurance, loss, and impossible labor. The Great Wall is not just a structure, it is the physical weight of an empire. 3. Summer Palace. Beijing. The Summer Palace was built as a place of escape, but history made sure it was never truly peaceful. Designed as a retreat from the heat and pressure of the Forbidden City, the palace was meant to reflect beauty, balance, and control. Man-made lakes, elegant bridges, painted corridors, and carefully shaped hills all worked together to create a world that looked natural but was deeply engineered. At the center of this world stood Empress Dowager Cixi, one of the most powerful and controversial figures in Chinese history. She used the palace not just as a retreat, but as a symbol of influence and authority. Some say even the famous marble boat represents the contradictions of her rule: beautiful, expensive, and impossible to move. Walking through the grounds, you don't just feel calm, you feel the weight of imperial power hidden beneath the silence. The Summer Palace is elegance, politics, and control, all built into one landscape. 4. Pingyao. Ancient city. Now, imagine walking into a city that time forgot. That is Pingyao. Inside its stone walls, the atmosphere feels unchanged for centuries. The streets are narrow, the rooftops curve gently like waves, and there are no glass towers or neon signs breaking the illusion. Instead, you see wooden doors, red lanterns, and quiet alleys that seem to preserve an older rhythm of life. Pingyao was once one of the financial centers of China, home to some of the country's first banks and merchant systems. Long before modern banking, silver moved through these streets in locked chests, guarded by private security firms. But Pingyao is not only important because of money. It is important because of memory. At night, When the crowds thin out and the lantern light softens the walls, the city feels almost aware of itself, like it remembers everything that happened here. Pingyao does not feel abandoned, it feels preserved by time itself. 5. Terracotta Army. Xi'an nothing prepares you for the moment you enter the chamber of the Terracotta Army. At first, you think you're looking at rows of clay figures. But then, the scale sinks in. These are not simple statues. They are warriors, thousands of them standing in formation as if frozen in time, each with a different face, posture, and expression. They were created over 2,000 years ago to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. He was obsessed with immortality and determined to carry his power into the afterlife. For centuries, the army remained hidden beneath the earth until a farmer digging a well uncovered it by accident. That discovery changed history. And yet, the emperor's actual tomb still remains unopened, buried beneath a massive mound said to contain traps and rivers of mercury. Maybe some things are meant to stay hidden. Or maybe we simply don't understand what we're about to awaken. Standing before the Terracotta Army, you don't just see history. You feel the strange boundary between life, death, and power. 6. Dazu rock carvings. If ancient China had a philosophy carved into stone, it would be found in Dazu. Hidden in the hills near Chongqing, the Dazu rock carvings are not just religious decorations. They are entire belief systems etched into cliffs. Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucian ideas living side by side on the same stone walls. The carvings feel deeply human. One moment you're looking at a grand divine figure with 1,000 arms. The next, you see a simple scene of grief, a mother praying beside a sick child. That contrast gives the place its emotional power. Dazu is not trying to impress you, it is trying to teach you. It feels less like a monument and more like a message from people who wanted to preserve wisdom in a form that would survive everything. This is stone that thinks, stone that remembers, stone that speaks. 7. Forbidden City. Beijing. You don't simply walk into the Forbidden City. You pass through it like stepping from one world into another. For more than 500 years, it was the center of imperial China, home to emperors and sealed away from ordinary people. Every part of it was built to reflect cosmic order, the symmetry, the colors, the gates, the courtyards, even the number of steps. Nothing here is accidental. It was all designed to represent harmony between heaven and earth. But despite its grandeur, the Forbidden City carries an eerie stillness. Long corridors seem to echo with footsteps that aren't there. Some rooms feel colder than they should. The silence can feel heavier than the architecture. Whether you believe in spirits or not, there is something uncanny about this place. It doesn't just preserve power. It preserves presence. 8. Mogao Caves. Dunhuang, deep in the Gobi Desert, lies one of the most extraordinary cultural treasures in the world. The Mogao Caves. Also known as the Library of the Silk Road, these caves were once a sacred stop for monks, pilgrims, and traders traveling across Asia. Inside the cliff face are hundreds of painted chambers filled with statues, murals, and scenes from a world where Buddhism, art, and trade all met. Some of the paintings are over 1,500 years old and still hold remarkable color. But the biggest discovery came from a sealed cave that had been forgotten for nearly 1,000 years. Inside were tens of thousands of manuscripts, poems, sutras, maps, letters, and records preserved perfectly by the dry desert air. It is one of the greatest archaeological finds of the modern age, and it happened by accident. The Mogao Caves are not just a temple complex. They are a time capsule from a civilization that wanted to be remembered. 9. Temple of Heaven. Beijing, just south of the Forbidden City, lies a place that feels quieter, softer, and somehow deeper, the Temple of Heaven. Unlike imperial palaces, this place was not built to show power. It was built to ask for it. Emperors came here to pray for good harvests and to present themselves not as rulers, but as servants of the sky. Everything in the temple is symbolic. The circular halls represent heaven. The square platforms represent earth. The layout follows ancient principles of balance, harmony, and cosmic order. Even the famous echo wall creates a strange, almost spiritual clarity when you speak near it. The Temple of Heaven reminds you that the greatest power in ancient China was not only political, it was also spiritual. 10. Mount Taishan. They say Mount Taishan is not just a mountain. It is a ladder to heaven. For over 3,000 years, emperors have climbed it to pray. Poets have written about it. Pilgrims have carved prayers into its stone. Even today, starting the climb before dawn and watching the sun rise above the clouds feels less like hiking and more like entering a sacred tradition. There are thousands of stone steps, each worn by generations of footsteps. Along the way, you pass old pines, shrines, and cliff-side passages where the mountain seems to speak in silence. At the summit, the sky feels closer. Mount Taishan is not conquered. It is experienced. 11. Yellow Mountain. Unhui. If Mount Taishan is about ritual, then Yellow Mountain is about magic. This is the landscape that inspired countless Chinese paintings, misty peaks, stone stairways, pine trees growing out of cliffs, and clouds rolling beneath your feet. It does not look real until you are standing inside it. Yellow Mountain feels like the earth dreaming. Light moves across the landscape like music. The paths feel ancient, as if they were not built, but discovered. When the clouds open and the peaks rise above the sea of white mist, the view is almost unreal. You do not dominate Yellow Mountain, you surrender to it. 12. Sangsingdui Ruins, Sichuan. And then there is Sangsingdui, the place that still puzzles archaeologists. Discovered by accident, the site revealed strange bronze masks, oversized eyes, towering figures, and sculptures unlike anything else in ancient China. No written language survives. No clear historical record explains who these people were. Their art feels more myth than history. Some believe they were part of an ancient kingdom. Others think they were a separate civilization that vanished suddenly, leaving behind only symbols and mystery. Whatever the truth is, Sangsingdui does something rare. It reminds us how much of human history is still missing. Standing before those bronze faces, you don't just wonder who made them. You wonder what else we have lost. China is often seen through the lens of modernity cities, speed, industry, and scale. But beneath that surface lies a deeper world, one built from stone, silence, devotion, power, and mystery. These places are not just old, they are alive with memory,